Alrighty team, it is the 30th of April and time to set up Vogel's bullet journal for the month ahead. Instead of our typical time-lapsing and voiceovering type thing, this one's going to be a little bit more real-time, a little bit more chatty. Hopefully you enjoy it, let me know what you think in the comments, but first of all we're going to have a flip through of April. So Vogel's theme for April was aliens, or the Alien franchise, Alien movies. So we have Ripley, we have the Xenomorph, this one was inspired by a tattoo. We have the face huggers on the monthly log. They're coming out of the goddamn walls. We've got his weeklies, which are all the same style each week. I was trying to draw the alien eggs, but they kind of ended up looking like chicken eggs. It's fine. It's not like that was the first thing that Vogel mentioned when I gave him his journal. Anyways, so that one just continues on. So our current week. And then our first page for May. So Vogel has picked all of his themes for the year, and of course, one of the themes he picked was Star Wars, and there feels like no better time than May to do a Star Wars theme. Not gonna lie, I don't know super lots about Star Wars, so we're kind of just going with what I do know. I'm thinking that I kind of want to tend towards doing Star Wars things that aren't Star Wars characters, if that makes sense. But the first thing we're gonna need is some Blackout paper. I'm just using these 2 sheets of Blackout paper from my Archer and Olive Neapolitan notepad, and I'm going to trim them down around the corners so that then they match on both sides and stick it in. Kind of similar to what we did in January with the Matrix theme, so it'll kind of end up looking like this. I don't want to trim away too much, I essentially just want to trim away the edge where I've pulled it off the notepad so that it is straight, not fuzzy. For cutting to ensure straight lines, I'm going to use my, I don't know, rotary trimmer. It's like a ruler that you kind of pull up and it's got a magnetic strip so it holds it in place. And then this guy here is just a rotary blade that you run down, makes it nice and straight. Putting it in, lining it up, and cutting through. There we go. Nice little piece taken off, so you can probably see it's just got that kind of rippled edge, and I want it straight. And then just the same for the other one. Nice and easy. To make the edges of the paper the same on all corners, I'm just using my Creative Memories corner rounder, so you just slide the paper in, and then press down, and it just rounds the corner off for you. Nice and easy. I feel like that's the motto of today's setup, I just want everything to be nice and easy. There you go. I'm just doing the ones that are already rounded, just to make sure we have the same level of rounding, effectively. So you can see we just cut off like that little slither from the corners that were already rounded. And again, just same for the other one. And now we just need to stick those to the page. I am going to use my double-sided tape for this. So we've got 2 options, the double-sided tape roller, where you kind of like roll it on like it's whiteout tape, or the roll of tape that I can line up and stick down. I'm gonna go with this one because this one is like more precious to me. No, this one I find is better for little fiddly pieces, whereas this one can be very useful for like larger pieces of paper, especially larger pieces of paper that are box shaped. Plus it gives me a little bit more control as to which pieces of the tape are actually exposed when it comes to sticking things down. I don't have to have everything exposed at once. I can just stick one edge down and then make sure it's all lined up properly and rah-rah-rah, rather than having everything sticky, everything adhesive, and then possibly stuffing up the way I've lined something up, and then it's just a bit more messy. I also like to try and put my tape kind of close to the edge, just so that then it sticks down well. It doesn't like start peeling up or anything. Not that it would, but like, you know, I just don't have that issue. I don't have any of the edges curl up at all or not sit flat to the page. I'm not being too precise with this. I just want it to be pretty close, but it doesn't need to be like apocalyptically close. Along all 4 of the edges, and then what I'll also sometimes do is put some in the middle, you know, just if I feel like it needs just a little bit more securing. I think today I'll put 1 strip in the middle, just to make sure that it is all stuck down well. Just like, there we go. That looks good. And then the same on the other one. As I said before, this style of plan with me is a little bit different for me. I think it almost ends up being a little bit more instructional, but if you guys like it, do let me know in the comments, or if you don't like it, let me know as well. I always want to make sure that I'm making content that you guys actually like. So we've got our double-sided tape pieces already. We can flip those over, stick them down. They aren't going to line up with the page perfectly, but that's okay. That's kind of why I trimmed them down the way that I did. But we've just got a little bit of an edge at the bottom and then a little bit of an edge at the top. Nice. So I'll start by pulling off one of the pieces of tape just so that I can get it lined up along the bottom. And once it's lined up, then I can remove the tape that I've left on the back pretty close to the edge. I'm kind of trying to make sure that the edge of my blackout paper is straight compared to the edge of the journal. That looks pretty good. And now we just pull it back and pull off these pieces. Something that we need to be careful with when dealing with these larger pieces of paper is making sure that when we stick it down flat so we don't get any like bubbling and stuff like that. There we go. That looks pretty good. Get rid of this rubbish. And then the same for the other one. So first thing is just that piece along the bottom. Line it up, stick it down, fold it back, take off the pieces of tape, and then just gently press it down to the page. There we go. Now, something that I didn't actually pay attention to was where the dot grid is positioned on the blackout paper. So the dot grid on here actually comes up further than the dot grid here. Ideally, I would have stuck this piece of paper the other way around. If that's something that's going to bother you, make sure that you look out for that kind of thing. For what I need to do with this, it's really not that big a deal. Now, on this side, we're going to have our quote page, and on the quote page, I haven't actually decided what the quote's going to be yet, but I wanted to include the Death Star. So what I've done is I've just traced a circle out on some white dot grid paper. To trace that circle, I just used this Helix circle maker, so it's a little stencil that you just put your pencil in and make circles in, nice and easy. And then once I traced out the circle, I've just cut this out with scissors. So it is going to go in the middle of the page here-ish, and this is going to be the Death Star. Something I've also done is actually pencil in the Death Star design. So I might, before sticking it in, actually go and draw over these lines, just to make sure I'm happy with it, because there's nothing worse than sticking something in your journal and then drawing on it, and then realizing you don't like it. To draw it in, I'm going to use the bullet end of this Tombow. This is the N89. I don't want the lines to be like super dark or super heavy. I'm just going to draw them in with the grey. And I'm also going to pull up a reference of the Death Star just so I have that for when I'm doing my drawing in, just to make sure it actually looks like what it's supposed to look like. This is going to look a little bit more stylized than other Death Star drawings you may have seen before, just because I don't want it to be super detailed, because I have a life to live here. And I don't want this to take too terribly long. There we go. I think that's the thing with doodles. I feel like if somebody can look at it and kind of understand or interpret what it was you were drawing, then the doodle has been successful. It doesn't need to be super detailed. And I think that if somebody looked at this, they would be able to tell that it was a drawing of the Death Star. The nice part about it being a circle also is that if I stuff up this side, I could just draw on the other side. First world solutions. Not gonna lie, it kind of looks like a disco ball right now, but, you know, maybe it could be a disco theme. Go, and the band in the middle I'm gonna draw as one block, so I'm gonna go this way, just to try and make the lines a little bit straighter, just a little bit. There we go. And we're also gonna draw in this circular piece first, so that then we don't overextend any of our square lines, because it's kind of got rings inside it, eh? There we go. That looks pretty Death Star-y. Should also think about what quote I actually want to put on this quote page. Typically speaking, when I do these bullet journal setups, I have most things pretty mapped out before I start with the actual recording portion, but for today, I haven't done that. I only have like a general, vague kind of idea as to what I want to accomplish with this setup. There we go, I think that looks pretty good. We're just going to erase the lines now, so we can get a better look at it. There we go, so our Death Star is complete. That one's gonna go in the middle of the page here, and quote. Alright, I need a quote. I should just put in the ability to speak does not make you intelligent, but I think that'd be a little bit rude. Honestly, just given the fact that it's like got the picture of the Death Star, we probably have to go with the whole "that's no moon" thing. So we're probably gonna put him here and go, "That's no moon, it's a space station." Yeah. So for this one, we will use the double-sided tape roller. So just applying tape to the back pretty liberally. And then sticking it down. Just trying to make sure that we have the majority of the edges done. There we go. Tape rollers are the greatest. Like, they are very, very convenient. There we go. That looks about... That's roughly central. I think that's okay. Nah, it's all good. I don't reckon it's quite straight, but that's okay. I'm sure Vogel won't mind. Now, for the writing that we're doing on this one, I'm going to be using a yellow acrylograph pen because, you know, Star Wars colors, logo, black and yellow. We just need to shake the crap out of it before we actually use it. And because I want to get the positioning of my letters pretty central, I'm going to pencil them in first. Really, all I penciled in was the first letter, just so I knew where I needed to start, and then I went in with the acrylograph to write out the quote. You can see that for this letter up here, I did accidentally flick the acrylograph a little too high, so I'm just going to grab a black pen and we're going to write over the top of that to kind of just blend it in with the blackout paper. There we go. Not too shabby. That's no moon, it's a space station. For the cover page, I just wanted to put May in the Star Wars font, or like a font that kind of looks like the Star Wars font, and then maybe put some stars in the background, that kind of thing. Keep it pretty simple. So in order to help me with that, I do have a print off of a Star Wars-esque font that I've sized to fit in the middle here. I'm just going to trim down the edges so that I can get it pretty central, and then we're going to trace it in. So trimming down the edges. Doesn't need to be all the way over, I just need to make sure that the gap here is pretty similar to the gap on the other side. Yeah, that looks good. And I've got a fairly straight line on the bottom, so that looks pretty good. So putting this roughly where I want it, it's going to roughly sit about here-ish. But in order to trace this into my journal, what I'm first going to have to do is flip it over and then color in this backside with my pencil. So I don't need to color in the whole thing, I just really need to color in like the outline of the letters, so that then, once it's colored in, I can flip it over, stick it down, and trace over the outline of the letters. This will transfer the pencil lead from this side onto my journal. Coloring in first. This is one of my favorite, like, kind of hacks for journaling, because sometimes you're just not feeling pretty artistic. Sometimes you don't feel like, you know, drawing things freehand. I'm okay with tracing. I think tracing is a good skill to have. Obviously, we're giving credit where credit is due and stuff like that. Like, we're not tracing somebody's layout and then not crediting them as the, like, original creator or anything. But sometimes you just don't feel like pulling out your own creativity stick. And you just want to trace something instead. So you can see, like I said, I'm not coloring in the full background of the letters, I'm just doing the outline, so that then I don't waste my time. There's not much point in tracing out or, you know, putting in the pencil for parts that I'm not going to trace out. So I'm just going to trace the outline, so there's not much point in filling in the internal parts of the letters. So I'm using this here for lettering, but realistically you could use this for pretty much anything you wanted to. Pictures or other decorative elements that you want to include. You just want to make sure that whatever you're printing off, you've already sized to be the correct size for your journal. So when I went and typed up the word May and put it in this Star Wars font, I made sure to measure how far across it was going to be so it actually fit on this cover page the way I wanted it to. So we have it colored in. Now we are going to secure it to the page. To do this, I'm just going to put some washi tape down. Some washi tape that's not too sticky because I don't want it to rip up my blackout paper or anything like that. I'm just going to lay it along the top here so that then it's kind of like secure to the page. It doesn't move, or, you know, if it does move, I can very easily put it back where it's supposed to on the page. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Stick it down. There we go. Doesn't need to be super secure. It just needs to be secure enough that it doesn't move during. To do my tracing, I'm just going to use my mechanical pencil. Sometimes I like to use a colored pen so I can very easily see where I've gone over the lines, or like which lines I've actually gone over. But because I'm just doing a simple lettering today, I think it should be fine with just using this guy. Okay. So So just tracing over the parts where you actually want your lead to transfer, and not tracing over the parts you don't want your lead to transfer. You don't have to press too hard here, really depends on what kind of darkness of lead you've used, in terms of like what darkness of lead you've used on the other side of your paper, because darker leads will typically transfer easier, or like softer leads I guess will transfer easier. I find the nice part about this tracing trick, rather than just printing things off and sticking them into your journal, is that you still get that kind of hand-drawn look, which I kind of like. I mean, nothing against printing things off and sticking them into your journal, because like I've done that multiple times in Vogel's journal so far, but sometimes you just want it to be hand-drawn. Excellent. Alrighty, so we pull this one off, and by that I mean both the header and the tape, thank you. Just be careful with the tape because we don't want to pull up any of that blackout paper. I find that if you use a washi tape that is too sticky, you will certainly pull up the blackout paper, or like the surface of the blackout paper. That's just not what we want. That is in, we just need to go in with our acrylograph, shake, 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 and do the outlining for that one. Gorgeous. I find with lighter colors on the blackout paper, like the yellow and sometimes white as well, I do have to go over it a couple of times to get the level of opaqueness that I want, but it's still a very enjoyable pen to use. You could of course use gel pens instead of a paint pen if you wanted to, that would work fine as well. I have a tendency to be able to draw vertical lines more straight than horizontal lines, so if that is the case for you, feel free to turn your journal while you work. I'm just making my life difficult here and not turning my journal. Oh, this is looking so good. I'm actually super chuffed with this. I think the Vogel's downstairs playing Mass Effect. I can hear him gunning things down. Oh, that was a little bit cattywampus. Y is one of those letters that I find really difficult to draw in block letters. I think it always kind of ends up looking a little odd, but it's all good. I think it's possibly because of the number of like diagonal lines you have to draw. There we go, looking cute. Now to add some stars. And we're not going to do like heaps, we're not going to go crazy, we're just doing like a smattering of stars. This would be the instance where I'd get some like white paint and a toothbrush and like flick some stars onto it, would be so much easier, but I don't have white paint, so we're just going to use another acrylograph, this time in white. So we're just going to add in some little white dots, just randomly, trying not to be too kind of systematic with it. And you can make them different sizes if you want, because that kind of mimics the night sky a little bit better. So bigger dots, smaller dots, places that have a higher concentration of dots compared to other parts. There we go, that looks pretty cute. I'm gonna put a couple of more, just go and add in any dots that, you know, you need to make it feel like it's full in the way that you want it to be. I was gonna try and keep the dots just to the outside edges, but I'm having fun with this. Just need to make sure I don't dot inside the mate header, because I don't want that to happen. And remember, any little accidents you put in, you can just reactivate the ink with water and try and wipe it off that way, or just go in with a black pen, or a black acrylograph, because the acrylographs do layer nicely on top of each other. I am pretty pleased with how that looks, she says as she continues to add more dots, because better never stops. Alright, we don't want to add too many, but we also want to make sure it doesn't look too kind of like formulaic in the placement of the dots. Not too perfect. There we go. Okay, that looks cute. One more. Okay, one more. She says that she adds 16 more. Okay, just put the pen down. I can stop whenever I want to. I don't have a dot addiction. Okay. It's actually finished. We're actually done. I'm pretty chuffed with that. I think that looks pretty damn cute. So we have our quote page. That's no moon. It's a space station. And we have our cover page, May. And now it's time to get on to the monthly log. I say that, but realistically, I'm actually going to go have dinner. No time will pass for you, but some time will pass for me.
Several months later.
We are back, we have had dinner, we've got a tea, and it's time to flip the page. We have had sufficient drying time for the acrylographs, like several hours, and it's on to the monthly log. First things first, I'm going to go in and rule up the calendar grid. Oh, my back. At this stage, I'm not too sure what I'm going to do around the calendar. I was kind of thinking more Star Wars font possibly, and like some little black boxes of blackout paper. Unsure. Let's go number the calendar first and give myself some time to think about it. Just going to use the acrylograph again for that. 1, And I only have to do one go over with the acrylograph on the white paper because it shows up a lot more opaque. Okay, the numbers are done. So originally what I did was I went onto my computer and made these up, printed them off, but my printer sucks, so these don't look great. I assume it shows up how streaky the printing was, and thus I don't really want to use them in Vogel's journal. Because I'm really not sure what I'm going to do on the monthly log, I decided that I would just go and put in the line work for the weekly spreads instead, just to give myself some time to think about what it is I might want to do. Flipping back though, I do think that I want to go in with the blackout paper and add some blackout paper elements. I'm going to use those for the days of the week, so like M, T, W, T, etc. Down the side here, I might put in some kind of doodles decorations. I'm going to have to look up what kind of Star Wars doodles I can do. As I said, I kind of don't want to do Star Wars characters, just because I don't feel like drawing faces, but maybe I could do like some of the ships or something like that. For the blackout paper, I'm just using an offcut from a previous setup, so just cutting some pieces to sit in here. They're gonna have to be 2 centimeters by, I think, 2 centimeters to make them squares. Yeah, I'm just gonna cut them out with some scissors. I'm gonna stick these in first and then do the lettering on them, just because I think it'll be a little easier when they're actually stuck to the paper. Typically what I'd like to do is to write on them first and then stick them in, just in case I stuff it up and I like want to flip it over or something like that, but I'm gonna live a little dangerously today. So, glue tape roller, putting that on the back and sticking them in. I was kind of tempted to put blackout paper all over the page and just have the calendar be like white boxes on these blackout pages, but I figured it would be a little fiddly trying to cut around the calendar that I've already put in. And this is why I typically plan my layouts out in full before I get started. There we go. So, little black boxes in, time to do some lettering. So I kind of wanted to make it similar to this lettering, but I think I'll just put in regular block letters. It'll look fine. Most of the letters that we're doing here are actually fairly easy to do as block letters. The one that I'm a little apprehensive about is the S. S is not my favorite block letter character, but we will see how we go. I treat the W like an upside down M, even though it should be a little bit more tilted on the sides, but it looks like the letter it's supposed to be, so it's all good. Alrighty, the dreaded S. It's not perfect, but it's alright. There we go. Now, to go and find some Star Wars doodles. And I reckon I will pencil these in first, just because I know otherwise they're gonna look cattywampus. I figured I'd include the sketching in process here because I know some of you guys have been asking about it. If this is the kind of thing that you'd like to see more of, just let me know because, as I said, we want to make content that you guys actually want to see. So we've got our little sketchy bits in. Honestly, I have no idea what these things are. Hopefully you guys do. If you're a Star Wars fan, let me know, and let me know how much I stuffed up some of these doodles. We've got the Death Star at least, and this is some kind of ship, and that is something that is relevant to Star Wars. I'm sorry. We're just gonna use the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pens. I'm gonna use the S size to draw these in. And at the top here, I'm gonna put in a quote. And I think the quote that I wanna go with is the Yoda quote about like trying and how there isn't any trying. Like you either do it or you don't do it. What is it? There we go. It says, do or do not. There is no try. Thanks, Yoda. Words of wisdom. So line work first, then we'll put the quote in. I'm probably just going to leave these doodles in black and white and just have the yellow be the main feature colour of my spreads. I think this ties in nicely with the theme because those are the colours of the Star Wars logo. For the circular elements on our doodles, just to make sure that they were particularly round, I used my circle stencil from Stettler. This is honestly one of the best bullet journal supplies I have, so if you don't have one, totally recommend. It is linked in the description box if you wanted to grab yourself one. So I in particular used that for our Death Star. I used it for what I believe is the Millennium Falcon. This is a guess, please don't be too upset if I'm wrong, but I'm trying. To make the doodles kind of look like they're connected to each other and not just 3 separate doodles chucked on the page, I also go and add a dotted line in behind them. Line work done, erasing the lines. So that these dots don't look so lonely, I'm going to go and add in like a couple of more dots, kind of to be like the negative image of the stars we have on the front. So like white stars on black, black stars on white. I'm just going to use my F-size pen for this. Again, not being too formulaic about where I'm placing these. I'm trying to make sure that I dot them rather than accidentally draw small lines. I'm going to try and keep it just to this panel though, because if I start encroaching on this space here, I'm going to want to put it the whole way across, and I don't think that that's super necessary. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. Now, time to pencil in our quote. And just to check to make sure that I actually get the quote right, because it would be really lame if I wrote it in incorrectly. So do or do not. There is no try. I think I'm going to do it on like 2 levels, so like do or do not, ... There is no try. And I'm going to put the quote in with black because I like the contrast of the black on the white. I like to write on an angle rather than writing with my book straight up and down. I find it more comfortable. Now I feel like I kind of want to put the dots around so that then, I don't know, there doesn't look like blank space here. But if I do that, I do need to put the dots everywhere. Fine, I'll put the dots everywhere. I think it'll make it look a little bit more finished. But I'm going to intentionally try and stay a space away, like 1 grid space away from these ones. Just because I don't want dots to be too close to them, I think it'll look a little odd. So there we go. I think that looks better. I think it does end up looking a little bit more complete with the dots the whole way around. And I feel like this kind of counts as a motivational quote. Really depends on how you interpret it. But anywho, monthly log finished and time to move on to the weeklies. So before you saw that I ruled in the weekly boxes, what we do have to do though is section off the bottom part for each of the weekdays. So that's those ones, not this one. I pretty consistently forget that this isn't actually for a day of the week and draw in another section at the bottom. The section at the bottom is what Vogel uses to put in his meal plan. So you can see like herby salmon, Thai yellow curry, yada yada yada. So these ones need it, that one does not. For those, we're just using this kind of like bluish grey Staedtler Tri-Plus fine liner. It's the one Vogel picked out. I think it's technically called warm grey. Yeah, warm grey. So just ruling a horizontal line 1 centimeter up from the bottom for each of the day boxes. Yes. In ruling these up, I'm intentionally doing all of the ones on the right hand side of the page first, just to make sure I don't accidentally rule in that notes box. This might well be the first month that I have successfully managed to not rule in the notes box on any of the weeklies. Yes. Great success! As you can see from our little labels that I made, I was intending on having Star Wars font in each of them. They're actually still pretty cute. I'm wondering if I can use them. I could always put them in for the first week and then reprint them when I get to a better printer. I'll cut them out. I'll see if I like it. We'll start with that. I have talked a couple of times about how to make these little printouts for your journal. So if you wanted to do printed headers for yourself, I have a link to a related video in the description box below that you can check out. As I said, super easy. And it's just a nice way to add a little bit of decoration, use fonts that you wouldn't otherwise actually be able to achieve. Most of the time, that's the reason I use them. But it's not a lot of work, which is nice. Into the corners, notes, Saturday, Sunday. See, the thing is, I think they're gonna be really cute. And I actually really do want to use them. So maybe I'll just stick in the first ones, and then when I get access to a better printer, I can put in the next ones. Because like I said, these are so super easy, and it actually brings in that kind of Star Wars font element, which is what I was looking for. So we're going to stick these in. We can't stick them that high though. We need to stick them like here. There we go, that looks better. Even though the printing quality of these ones isn't the greatest, they are still pretty cute. I've only stuck them in with a teeny tiny bit of the double-sided tape, just so that then when I get access to a better printer, I can reprint these and stick in the better quality ones. So we're not going to put in the rest of the headers for the other weeklies, just because waiting to get access to that better printer, but having a look at what we've done today. So we have our quote page. That's no moon, it's a space station with the Death Star. We have the May cover page, which I think turned out pretty good. I really love the acrylograph on the Blackout paper. We have the monthly log, calendar style, got 1 through 31, little pieces of Blackout paper again with the acrylograph. Do or do not, there is no try. And then we have the weekly logs, so just a regular 8-box weekly like Vogel likes to use. Has the sections at the bottom of each of the days so that he can put in our meal plan. I hope he likes this one. I know that he is a Star Wars fan, and I'd love to hear, are you guys Star Wars fans? Did you enjoy watching today's setup? Did you enjoy this style of video? Stay tuned for tomorrow though, because we do have some exciting things coming, but thank you for watching, team, and until next time, bye!